Welcome to the Startup Grind.
Great. Well, thanks for coming along, Michael. Now, first of all, how about we start off with your background? What did you do after school?
I dived straight into an engineering degree, which was nice and fun. I think my sister was an engineer, a couple of years older. Didn't really know what to do, so I just decided to do that. I didn't enjoy it at all because I started working in the real world in building engineering very early on in my degree, so I kind of saw what the real world was doing, and then I went back to uni and I was like, this is absolutely, we're learning the wrong thing here almost. So I was really unmotivated at uni. I got through. I think I lied and cheated a few times, and it was just a phase in my life I wanted to get over with, get the certificate, and then get out into the real world and start working. So it wasn't the best fun I ever had, but I just got it done, I suppose.
And then straight after did you start work?
Yeah, I built a great relationship with a very successful entrepreneur throughout uni, and he owned a large civil contracting business. So pretty much the day I finished my degree, I started working for his company up in Moranbah, which is kind of the mining heartland of Queensland. I kind of lived up there 5 days on, 2 days off for about 2 years, which is a pretty unbelievable experience.
Good time. Did anything during that time, did you think you had the knack for entrepreneurship, or?
I always loved, throughout being young and growing up, it sounds silly, but people with money and successful people, and I loved kind of asking the questions and listening to them, and really grabbed a hold of the owner of the business that I started working for, and was just so inspired by his lifestyle and how he went about it, and rolling his sleeves up and getting it done and starting business. So I never really knew or had aspirations to start a business, but I love the end result of it, which was having a business and having money and being able to do cool things.
Cool. So what about PlantMiner? How did you come up with this idea?
Yeah, so as an engineer for a private civil company or for any construction company, you get given the task of procuring maybe 50 machines and 20 different subcontractors and buying materials for that site. And the process across the industry is you need to get 3 apples for apples quotes for each bit of equipment or subcontractor you're trying to procure from. So for years, I was kind of calling equipment rental companies, subcontractors, saying this is a job, here's the plans via email. They'd send you back a quote in a format that you wouldn't ask for it in. They'd text you, they'd call you on the way home at night and give you a price. And it was a really, really frustrating job role that I had. And I think the flick switched in my head when I bought a Hilux on car sales, and I literally bought a $25,000 second-hand car in like 15 minutes. And it was an unbelievably nice experience. And so kind of early 2012, I'd absolutely had it with procuring the way I procured. It used to take up kind of weeks of my time, and it used to almost wreck my day. So kind of drew the line in the sand and thought there must be a better way.
Cool. So how did you take it from an idea sketched out to what it is today?
I made a pretty important phone call to my now business partner, who is the techie kind of guy, because I had the idea and lived the problem for several years, but had no idea how to start a business, had no idea about any technology. And luckily, that call, I think I bugged him on Facebook a few times, and he kind of didn't get back to me because he was doing other startups. But then from January 2012 till about July 2012, it became a beautiful relationship where we literally developed the business plan and financials and the market scale and the capability of it. And it's quite funny, the first week he wasn't interested at all, the second week not interested. Then he started to kind of research Australian construction industry procurement was $300 billion a year. Third week kind of talking, and then it became every night for an hour, literally after a 12-hour shift in the mines, working through financials and he did the business plan. And we did it all via correspondence, which is quite funny. I knew him previously, but we never ever had a meeting or met face to face until he came to Brisbane when we did our first investment pitch,
Wow.
which is quite a funny story in itself. But
Okay, we'll save that one for later.
yeah.
So what about that first business plan? What was involved there? Like, how did you make the jump from engineering to full-time in your startup?
Yeah, so I was lucky because Mike, my now business partner, had kind of done it before, which was a lot of things through this whole process. I've been reasonably lucky, and I still do believe that luck has a pretty large part to play in the whole process. But he'd kind of done it before and kind of knew what to do, but we still have our original business plan, and it's really laughable now. And I still have the financials that we did, and God, how we didn't get sued by a seed investor by not hitting numbers. And so we kind of put them all together. You get to a point that you say, this is ready, and we think that we've got a business here. But we went about it in a way that we kind of could not bootstrap it. I had no money. He was getting married and kind of had a house, and he couldn't bootstrap it. So we kind of said, we need investment from the start here. Like, there's some great startup stories of people selling their house and using that money and bootstrapping, and they do it all together without investment. But we couldn't do that. So we made the decision early on that we need to get investment if this thing is going to get off the ground.
And at what stage did you kind of take the business to before you started looking for investment?
We literally sought out seed investment at pre-ABN, so pre-business, pre-revenue stage, an idea, business plan, financials. But what we did have on our side was some great, wealthy, high net worth contacts in the construction industry. So we were very lucky that when we pitched to these seed investors, they knew within 2 minutes of the pitch the exact problem that we were trying to solve. And that's, if I can instill any advice on anyone trying to get seed investment, it is pitch to those in the industry who know the issue that you are trying to solve, because they will get it and they will kind of be able to ride the wave with you. So we were really lucky. We pitched to 2 and we got $850,000 of seed capital from one of them,
right. And
which started the business.
And was it just money that you got from your investors?
No, so we kind of did a deal that we got money, but also for a year we got office space, accounting resources, admin resources, HR resources. So, and that was pretty much their idea, because he was very smart in the way that he wanted us to come into work at hopefully 6 a.m. and leave at 6 and do nothing but work on building the business. You don't need to worry about hiring people. You don't need to worry about paying people. You don't need to worry about doing up contracts that Clark Can did. We want you to come in and grow this thing really, really quickly. And that was another kind of piece of information that some advice that I instill is try and do that kind of deal. I could imagine, and we were financially stable in the fact that I got a good paycheck from day one, so I didn't have to worry about paying bills or car repayments. And it was a beautiful thing that it allowed us to literally come into the business every single day and kind of just grow it and work on it, instead of the noise that happens so often on the outside to any kind of small business owner.
Sure. Now, when did you hire your first salesperson?
Really early on. We kind of had the seed capital. We had a seed investor kind of demanding some kind of traction or growth or what have you. And I didn't know sales. My business partner was a techie guy. He didn't know sales. So kind of straight away, first cab off the rank, we needed to employ a head of sales. So we went out on the search, and I was lucky that in my network of friends, I knew a guy who is now kind of, he's bought into the business and a large equity holder, and we class him, we're kind of the 3 co-founders and business partners. So he started off as head of sales, but is now very much kind of absolutely, he's the pillar of the business, and we couldn't do it or have done it without him. But a great first employee who's still with the business, has equity, and taught me, which I love now, passionately loves sales. Like I was in a sales pitch for 3 hours today, and I really, really do enjoy the full sales process, which he kind of taught me and kind of everyone else in our business.
Right. Going back to the resources you got from your seed investor, so that included an office space, but you're not still there, are you?
No, we're not. It's a funny story. He said that he'd give us an office space, but really we set up a petition of 4 in his boardroom. So we were kind of making 120 calls a day, and he was doing $1 million deals with NAB Bank, literally like right there on the boardroom table with us in the background. He kind of thought that it got a bit ridiculous, and we kind of had 6 people in there. A petition of 4, 2 $20 Bunnings tables on either end with 2, so we had 8, and that's 8 conversations going, and it kind of got way too ridiculous. So the story goes that we moved into his corporate office, and it almost killed the business straight away over several months, in the fact that you cannot have a vibrant young sales team put into their own office surrounded by accountants and HR people with no culture. And it's something that I had no clue about at the start of growing business. The culture, the team culture, the collaboration, the wanting to be there, the buying in. You just hear it all as noise. But we kind of made the decision once that year was up, luckily, that we were going to scrap the corporate life and start the startup life, and we actually moved into my house in Cannon Hill. So I used to sleep on a mattress in my room and have to fold it up every morning so the kind of 2 or 3 website engineers could start working. And that was kind of the end of 2013, so kind of like a year later, but that point was a huge watershed moment in the business, moving from the corporate-y type world that we've been shoved into back to scrap that. We're going to startup vibe, startup land. I'm wearing thongs to work, and we kind of had whiteboards up, and everyone's in this open plan space. We cook breakfast, and I had chickens out the back, and you'd cook omelettes or whatever, and you have beers in the oven. It was an unbelievably awesome period for the business for 6 months, until we had about 18 people in there, middle of summer, no aircon, council knocking on the door because you've got 18 cars parked outside and they're asking, "Are you running a business in here?" And I'm like, no. So kind of that lasted several months until we finally got our first office space in Newstead.
Okay. And are you still there?
No, we were in a great shed type open plan in Newstead, and got to about 40 people, and then started employing more females, and we're all kind of sharing the one bathroom. It was really weird. So we thought we better kind of get out of there, and now we're in a bigger office, and not a corporate office. It's still huge open plan and collaboration and whiteboards and whatever that we love, but a bigger office now that we can actually grow into, which is nice.
So how do you think the team hits their performance targets and is driven to perform?
From the start, pretty much, not from the start, but pretty much from when we moved into the house. We always call it the move into the house, change the business. And it was me, Dan and Mike, the 3, and then it was pretty much a group of my mates who were sales guys. And it was a beautiful thing that we would set targets together, and everyone was bought into hitting those targets. And when we hit those targets, everyone gets rewarded, and then everyone can see the growth. But it is a really difficult thing. And I think we find that even now, a couple of years down the track, kind of how do you grab a young group of salespeople, set targets with them, kind of, we have a thing, set target, hit target. And it's a really difficult thing that we still have not nailed in regards to being able to consistently hit sales targets every month, and which is a really important thing for a business with investors looking down, having to send out monthly results, etc. You can no longer almost yo-yo like that because your investors are demanding a lot kind of smoother playing field than that.
Absolutely. So you mentioned you hired quite a few friends. How do you go mixing friends and business?
Yeah, I did it at the start because I knew no other way, and we kind of would put a CCAT out, you get someone in and be sorry about the demographic, but like a mid-30s to 40s sales guy or whatever who'd sold cars for 10 years, and we were like, this is not the right fit. So what's worked really well in our business, because PlantMiner is so different, is we have employed lots of just entrepreneurial, spirited, non-sales people, and we feel like if you come in and you want to have a real crack at things and build the business with us, we'll give you the tools to sell. Like, it's not overly difficult to do that, and that's what we did with a lot of my friends at the start, is they came in with great blokes willing to, and women, and willing to roll the sleeves up, and we'll give you the tools. And since then, the business has outgrown several of those friends of mine, and several of those friends of mine outgrew the business. So, but in the end, business and friends to me still works really well. And if they don't want to be your friend after you have to sack them, then they probably weren't that good a friend in the first place. But that's just like a footy team, the business is bigger than any individual, and you have to do, no matter if they're your friend, you have to do whatever is the best for the business.
Sure. Now, how many people have you got working for PlantMiner?
We've got about 70 or so in kind of in Brisbane, Sydney, Perth and Manila as well, which we kind of have an operation over there. So it's kind of grown from, two of us in 2012 to 70 odd now.
Yeah. So with that kind of huge growth, how do you keep that culture going, and how do you keep in touch with everyone?
I think that what my business partner and I think we've done well is instill heavily that culture in those below us, from a general manager to head of engineering to head of sales to head of business development to our new head of marketing sitting up there, and hopefully we can instill it on her. But I really believe that it's difficult for me to touch and feel every one of the 70 people in the company, and it would become an almost full-time job. So I believe that our role as CEOs is to instill it on those below us in the tree, and to get them to buy in, to get them to truly believe and be passionate about what we're doing. And if they are, then that literally just flows down the line. And you very quickly find out in a tough sales BDM tech building environment who isn't bought into the culture and the business and our growth plans and what we want to do, because they literally get left behind, and they themselves want to exit the business. Because I almost feel sorry for a new employee coming in sometimes, because we are such like a tight group of friends who want to get this done and build an awesome business. And it's almost like if you want to come into our business, you better work hard. And I truly believe that's an awesome culture to build and expand with.
Cool. So on that, what about the mix of all those different types of people? So you've got salespeople, techie people. How do you manage that growth?
Yeah, really, we always discuss this, because our business development sales teams sit out on the floor, and marketing, and they're all, average age would be 23. And then we've kind of got our engineering team who sit together in like a more collaborative space together. And it is really difficult to kind of combine those two, but in the end, that's just who those people are. But in the end, we're all in this together. We all go through the ups. We all go through the downs. Is that how you say it? But I think that, it's a really, and connecting the Manila team as well has been a real challenge for us. But doing things like end of month activities, midweek activities all together. We do yoga and it's so funny seeing. I think we have one Australian tech employer whose heritage is Australian. It's so diverse, but it's so funny seeing them do yoga mixed in with 23-year-old kind of real Aussie ochre males and some females. That alone, just doing yoga every week, kind of really it smashes down barriers and people chat and doing things like that you have to do. But it is something that we still haven't nailed, is kind of the absolute collaboration between real hardcore software engineers and kind of salespeople.
Sure. Just a quick question here. What's the oddest hire request you've had?
The oddest hire request. I think we kind of opened the business up to doing a couple of event rental queries for parties or whatever. I don't know, where's Benny? I think we had like a bucking bull request in Dubbo or somewhere that if we can't, if our clients can't service that request, we kind of politely tell the searcher that we can't do it. But I don't know, there's been some weird ones. Some people want, and weird things now that are mainstream business for us. Like, I think there's a couple of engineers in the room. Like, one of the biggest hires is water monitoring equipment, air dust monitoring equipment, which kind of I knew about, but I never knew that literally every medium-sized site around Australia now to large sites, they need that. So that kind of, those weird things almost become mainstream now.
Sure. Tell me about the awards that you've got.
The awards are funny things for anyone who's starting a startup, because I think we apply for them more for the PR, and also when you're trying to attract good talent, it builds kind of good credibility for you. So the awards, any awards that the company's won, we kind of always, I never really go to the ceremonies or anything like that. We kind of always get employees to go and we celebrate together. But in the end, awards are a funny one, that some companies try and go for all of them and win them all. And then other great tech companies, it's kind of, it shouldn't be very high on your agenda to kind of want to enter every award in Australia or what have you. You should probably be concentrating on more important things in the business.
Sure.
But they are great when you win them. They're good credibility. You might get a backlink.
Nice. Now, after your seed funding, where did your funding rounds go there?
Yeah, so kind of July, August 2012 was 850,000 seed funding, and we kind of mosey on, didn't really grow, and we're burning through the money, and we started to monetize the website in a year later, in July 2013. So we kind of had a year's worth of burn. But July 2013, we started enough kind of revenue coming in and cash. So we weren't cash flow positive, but the cash burn was a lot lower. But it was really hard times. Like, if we didn't make some sales at the end of the month, my payroll, I talked to you about not worrying about money for the first year, but after the first year, like, my payroll would be delayed. Do you know what I mean? And that they were the really tough times when your seed investor doesn't want to go out for funding yet because we don't think the valuation is increased. They're pushing you to grow, but you can't employ more people. And really difficult times. But as I've said a few times, the moving to house moment a couple of months later saw our growth like absolutely skyrocket to a point that we could go out to market, raise kind of another $2 million at a much better valuation. We actually exited our seed investor because he wanted to go and do other things, and he was kind of happy with the valuation, and kind of we got our new investor in $2 million cash and kind of kept growing. I think at about 30% month-on-month growth for at least a year, which was almost silly growth, silly headcount growth, not controlling spend. And and then you soon realise that you're burning as much cash as you were when you kind of had no revenue. But they're all the things you learn. So that was kind of April 2014, the 2 million, and then we kind of this year we've closed about $5.5 million in funding, which has been awesome for the business and will really get us through to the next stage where we want to be. And that was all Australian-based funders. So the next stage is kind of a bigger check to either expand overseas or potentially even list on the ASX, even though all the bad press some tech companies are getting. But in the end, all capital raising does for us is get great investors on board who want to buy into the business, obviously, and want to come with us on our growth path, but then it just extends our runway. We're still burning cash. We're happy with that. The board's happy with that. A lot of it goes into R&D, but everyone knows the point we're trying to get to, and all the capital raising does is help you get to that point. But you have to do it in a really smart way, because capital raisings are the absolute thing from seed to any stage that will absolutely make or break your business.
Right. How many times did you get knocked back?
In this last round, a silly thing that we did was go and talk to American VCs first. Really, really dumb. Because they look at your growth and look at your numbers and look at your cash burn and tell you that you're going to get these crazy valuations and that you guys aren't growing quick enough and we want your cash burn to be more and we'll give you more money. And then we did a round of pitches to Australian investors, probably 15 or so, who all thought we were crazy because of the valuations we were talking about and our plan to move overseas so quickly and our plan to increase cash burn, but that's okay because we're going to get a bigger check. And the Australian investor market was so much more conservative than the American investor market. So we didn't really get pushed back so much. More people just going, whoa, like, here's some feedback, boys. This is kind of mid last year to the start of this year. Go and come back with kind of a more conservative business plan and financials, and we don't want you to go to America in the next 18 months, and we want your cash burn to be this every month and not this, and we don't want your head count to grow. We want the product to get built out slower and the product grow the business instead of head count. And that feedback compared to the American one, like in the investment round, we had a term sheet from a New York VC and a term sheet from Australian family fund, and completely different. And the business is either going to go here to this crazy growth and international expansion, or it's going to go here to a more conservative, build out the product, make more mistakes in Australia. And we went down the Australian path, which I think is a good decision for us now, because we're still making so many mistakes, etc., and still building out the product to a point that it can expand.
Sure. So on the terms conditions, so you've seen some crazy terms conditions in your time?
Yeah, they really crazy in the way that, like, for example, the American VC would buy in at a valuation, and if you didn't get the business to 4 times that valuation, they got their money back and then you got yours. So it was like almost they're just loaning you the, say, 10 million bucks. Unless you get to 4 times your valuation, then everyone's happy. And which drives you to grow to 4, and you say to them, we'll get to 4 times val, no worries, but then you're kind of biting your tongue going, well, if we even get acquired for 3 times val, we have to go and give them 10 million bucks back. Do you know what I mean? Which leaves us with this. But I truly believe, for anyone out there, the stronger your business and the stronger your revenue and the stronger your growth and the stronger your team and the stronger your already international expansion, the better terms you'll be able to negotiate. And we weren't in a strong position with an American VC. We weren't in America yet. Our growth wasn't what they wanted to see, etc., etc. So they hit us with pretty hard terms, but they'll write you a big check. So
Right.
they're the kind of two.
Sure. So how do you view your current investors? What's your relationship with them?
Yeah, so our relationship with our current investors is a very, very collaborative one. We have a formal quarterly board meeting, which you ask anyone in startup world, and that's 4 a year isn't enough because things change so quickly. But literally, that's a formal sit down where you record minutes, but we're in contact with them every second week, letting them know about new things, letting them know that we got a new client on board, celebrating the wins together, letting them know as soon as there's an issue starting, you let them know about, not 3 months down the track at the board meeting saying, well, this happened kind of at the start of the quarter and we're just letting you know now. And we've found that being so open and honest and transparent with those who have put in their hard-earned money is the best way to go about things. Don't try and trick your investor. Don't try and brush over things. Get the bad things out of the way first and then move on to kind of what you want to do and how. Because in the end, they're in. And if you have a solid term sheet that they can't absolutely go you on, they're in with you. And they can't get out unless you get the valve better and get bored or what have you. So they may as well work with you to work out the issues going on in the business. And there are a lot of them. And any startup that says there isn't, they're lying.
Got some more questions popped in. First one is, what kind of traction did your first seed investors want to see?
That was our fault because we put it out there in financials that first month of revenue, we'd bring in 100 grand, and it would just grow from there. So our seed investor was not a tech investor, which is another, if I can instill any type of knowledge to the group looking for investment, is that do a lot of due diligence on your investors as much as they do it on you, and make sure that they've probably invested in tech before, because if they're an institutional investor investing in bricks and mortar, they just expect kind of that, right? But when they're investing in tech, you go like that and then like that. Like if we hit numbers by 300%, they'd almost be getting upset at us going, why is this happening and why wasn't this predicted? Do you know what I mean? So the numbers that we set our seed investor were unrealistic, but we thought they would be realistic. We weren't kind of lying to him, but yeah, that was the difficult thing that our seed investor faced, was that we kind of put unrealistic numbers on the table in hindsight, and hitting them was difficult. And if someone invests and you don't hit numbers for the first 6 months, it probably doesn't start the best relationship off if they're not willing kind of to work with you to grow the business.
Sure. Another question is, what about your funding post-seed? Is it the same investor or you got some new ones?
Yeah, so the post-seed was a New Zealand family office with a venture fund who have invested in 20 other tech companies. They liked the valuation, they loved the company, they'd invested in a few other techie construction companies as well, had awesome contacts in New Zealand and Australia, and came in really easily. I think they came from New Zealand, met us, we pitched on a Wednesday, Thursday sat in our lawyer's boardroom, did up a new shareholders agreement, and the deal was done. Kind of, that was a pretty beautiful thing. But the business was, as I said, the business was growing and it looked great. So us as a business, we're in a much stronger position to get a good term sheet with an investor. And then our investment this year has been from a lead investor who's a family fund, and then some kind of tack on other investors from around who kind of write smaller checks but love investing with a lead investor, and who are awesome investors who have invested in kind of, you name Australia's 15 best tech companies, and kind of our investor group are investing in them as well, which gives us a lot of confidence that they hopefully back winners.
What about the growth? What are your investors' expectations around what you should be doing?
Yeah, again, obviously as founders, we put the numbers out there to hit. Do you know what I mean? And we agree to them and they expect us to hit them. But really, we're going through an interesting period in the business now that we're transitioning revenue models. We're really concentrating on not growing the business just by employing heads, because that is easy. We're developing the product more, so hopefully the product can scale without heads. And we're really investing more into marketing, more into product development, more into engineering, and not so much into business development and sales. So what our investors are wanting to see now is not so much huge sales growth, but more product growth and starting to acquire larger strategic clients, which are going to hold us better kind of in the long term. Because the way the business started and the way we were running it, we were just a big sales BDM shop with kind of a tech platform to use. And now we want to change that to be a technology company that our sales and BDM team go and sell the technology platform.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're currently in Australia and New Zealand.
Yep.
Any plans to go to other markets?
Yeah, like that's an absolute goal for us, because the global construction procurement industry kind of feels the same pain points as the Australian construction industry, and that is exciting for us. And my business partner and I have been to America and kind of met a lot of companies over there, and we kind of chat to them at why the Aussies do things and what we're doing, and they all like it. But in the end, that it is such a huge step to enter into America. And we, as I said, we want to spend some more good months building the product out, making mistakes, acquiring really large customers in Australia, getting them to a point where thousands of people in their organisation are using the system, and then going to market and hopefully getting a bigger venture capital check, or even listing, any way to access enough capital to kind of execute an international expansion.
What about Procure It? What's that?
Yeah, so PlantMiner is a marketplace that if you're a searcher for equipment or subcontractors, you can for free access that marketplace of thousands of suppliers and get quotes back. And then we've built an enterprise kind of platform on top of that to lock up the searcher side of the business. So for example, Hutchinson's builders will approach them to use the system company-wide to procure all of their plant equipment rental needs, subcontractors, materials, etc. Because our biggest ROI is spend of money kind of through our platform, or procurement of goods and services through our platform. And doing that on an ad hoc searcher basis is difficult to really skyrocket the value. But if you can get whole construction and mining and contracting companies using the system, it's an absolute game changer.
Got a couple more questions rolling in. First is, how was your seed investor related to your employer at the time, and did you have any potential IP issues with your idea?
No, the seed investor in the end was the employer. So that's why he knew the product, not the product, the issue so well, but the others that we pitched to in the construction space were like, this is a done deal. They all kind of knew each other. If he doesn't invest, we're in. Do you know, because of you just hit them in the face with the problem that they've faced their whole kind of lives through their business, and that we're going to come in with this awesome technology and solve it all.
And was that a big barrier trying to explain, I guess, to these entrenched habits in the procurement industry? Like, was that a barrier to overcome to kind of roll this out, or? We have not even, we are trying to overcome that I'm the head of sales over there, every single day. Like, it is, and I don't know in my business lifetime with PlantMiner that we will overcome that across the industry. But we want to, there's $300 billion worth of construction going on in Australia every year. And our aim is to get enough of that through our platform that it becomes a viable tool, just like not every car is sold on car sales, but a huge percentage of cars are now sold on car sales. And that's what we're trying to do, is you've got to grab as much of the market as possible and change habits. And doing that on a company-wide searcher level is the way to get large change.
So on that, you mentioned, the ROI is one of the metrics you think of every week. Is there any more that you might consider on a daily basis?
We kind of have a great dashboard at work that measures we're not micromanagers, but with our sales and BDM team, we kind of are, in the fact that everyone has daily, weekly and monthly targets, and we feel like that's a really good way to go about it when you've got young salespeople who just need to focus on hitting set numbers, hit numbers that day, and we kind of say to people, all you need to do is come to work as an individual and hit the numbers that we've set with you together. And you doing that, and all your employees around you doing that, is going to together hit a team target, which if we keep hitting that, we're going to build something really awesome and beautiful here. So those kind of financial salesy metrics we track every day, and then obviously jobs through the platform, which means kind of value through the platform, is a huge tracker that we track every day. And in saying that, we're still not very good at the whole data analytics thing and what have you, but we're getting much better at it. And as CEOs, we're trying to instill that in the employees below us to become data freaks and data experts, because you can argue every day of the week in a boardroom about an issue and then bring out the numbers, and the data does not lie, ever.
Next one, who was your first major client and what was the story behind landing that key client?
I think it was clients that were difficult on the searcher side because it's ad hoc, a Hutchie's builder, a Leighton's contractor or whatever, they use it to procure. But our first kind of big paying client, whether I think potentially a D&M, a large plant hire company in Brisbane, paid us $20,000 for not a very good product, and I don't think I made that sale, and that was kind of, and then plant hire companies started paying $10,000 and $12,000 and $50,000 to list their gear on our site and receive leads from contractors, and that kind of, obviously that hits you going like, people see huge value in this and are willing to pay for it, which was an awesome experience. The biggest stress I've ever had in the business was that we signed all these suppliers up and gave them a 90-day free trial, and then that was in April, free trial, May free trial, June free trial, and then 1st of July was our first month of monetisation, and I did not sleep a wink the last day of June because we had to come into work on the first day of July and ask people to pay for our technology platform. And luckily enough of them did that kind of we were able to cash our way forward. But yeah, we had to be pretty ruthless salespeople.
Next one, aside from the weird toilet situation, how has hiring more women contributed to PlantMiner's success?
Yeah, that was a funny one. Our first Christmas party, there was 0 women, and I vividly remember that. And I think things got a bit out of hand with a blokey bloke world. And the Christmas party was at my house, and my business partner and I were like, God, I don't care who it is, but our next couple of hires we need to. But in the end, the male-female thing, you don't want to say anything too controversial, we hire the best person for the role. And that is, we're not a big four bank and want diversity or what have you. We're a startup, and if you're the best person for the role, we want you. But women in our business, it has been unbelievable to watch them in the same role as a male and absolutely kill it in the way how they
talk to clients, treat clients in their aura of how they go about things and how they will go about a sale or a client management or deal with an issue. And it's been a brilliant thing for the males to see how a female, I'm not generalising, but it's been a great thing for the business to kind of get females in different roles, and now there's more in the tech kind of arm of the business, and everyone just brings different ideas and demeanours and kind of the way they go about things, and but in the end we will never kind of sit there and say this role needs to be a female, because it's like we absolutely just want the best person for the role.
Can you name 3 people that you'd want to bring into business advisory? Any 3?
That I'd want to, what, sorry?
Bring into your business as an advisor.
Ooh. Probably Lee Jasper, who's the CEO of Aconex, which is a $1.5 billion listed company, and who paved the way of construction technology in Australia and around the world. They started in 2000 and are now a $1.5 billion company. So he'd be awesome to be an advisor in our business of how to grow a business that's got revenue and growing to an actual game changer in the construction industry across the world, and people know it. And it saves their clients billions of dollars kind of every year. There's so many, like the Mike Cannon-Brooks from anyone who, like when I was younger, I used to admire people who'd been there and done that and got heaps of money and their businesses were awesome. Anyone who'd done it, because if I could just grab someone who was 10 years ahead of me and got a tech company that's worth $1 billion and say, like, how did you do it? What did you do? Some of the things I think they'd instill on you, just like maybe I can with someone trying to start a business, is absolutely priceless.
So we're running close to time, but what are your 3 pieces of advice for anyone in the room who's starting or in the middle?
I think it's really, really hard to own a business, any business. Like if you build trailers for a living, like it's really, really difficult to do that, and it's not easy. And especially in tech, it takes a long time. Like, people think, I could name 5 tech companies that are kind of overnight successes, do you know what I mean? Like Uber started in 2007, maybe. Like, who knew Uber for years and years, do you know what I mean? Like, nobody. And everyone thinks it's an overnight success, but it's just not. And there's a lot of grinding to do and coming to work and not growing and grinding away that you need to do. So be passionate about what you do is my first piece of advice, and be able to get out of the grind and get in a helicopter above and kind of look at what's going on and and always know that you're moving towards where you want to go to, but be passionate about it, because the more passionate I am about the business, that just absolutely just goes down to the tier below me, and then they instill it on the tier below them. Second one, for anyone raising capital, like I said before, would be do due diligence on your investor. Find out, have they invested in tech before? That would be my first question. Who have you invested in? Can I talk to them? Do you know what I mean? Ask them that question, and call the founders of companies that they had invested in and say, what is this guy like as an investor? So, because they are your business partner, like they are, through the good times and bad, they can make you or break you, and they're absolutely in deep with however much money they give you. And the third one is celebrate the wins. Like, even if it's a small one, I think we had a good quarter this quarter, and we did it a week early, but we kind of all went to lunch on Friday as a whole company to BYO Thai. Do you know what I mean? Like, cost us, I don't know, $1,000 for 50 people. But it was such an awesome afternoon. Everyone's hit numbers as a team. Celebrate kind of the wins and celebrate the good times, because it's tough and there's sleepless nights, but you want to kind of get around everyone when things are going well, and hopefully you can have those type of events very often because things always go well.
Excellent. Got a last few questions in. Atlassian and Vinamofo are two famous companies with a co-CEO. How does that influence the decision-making process?
Oh, I'm really glad someone asked that, because I know some CEOs who are sole CEOs, and I could not imagine doing that. Every single decision that we make in our organisation is a collaboration between me, my co-founder, Dan, who's a co-founder, general manager, Benny, who's our head of sales. Today we sat down for an hour and argued and whatever. It's collaboration. I don't stand up on a pedestal and say, this is what we're going to do, and go tell everyone else. It's absolute collaboration on big decisions and small ones as well. Like, we use Slack, the messaging app. Someone wants this or do that. You kind of collaborate, work on it, make a decision, move on. And that's the way I want it. Like, I would feel weird making a decision without consulting or collaborating with anyone, and then going to the group and saying, this is how we're going to do things. So a brilliant, if it's the right co-founder, brilliant. And hopefully they can bring a different set of skills too.
How would you feel being the CEO of an ASX-listed company?
I don't know. I've heard good things and bad, but our philosophy on it is that it's whatever is the best way to access capital to grow the business to get it to the next stage. And I'll truly say this, a private company with venture capital, if you're a good company and you grow well and you've got good founders, you will get great valuations being private, and you'll absolutely kill it being private. If you're a great company, got great founders and grow well and got good profit on the ASX or whatever, you will keep growing and get valued well. Just be a good business and go in whatever way leads you to accessing capital and whatever is best for the business. But in the fundamentals of having a good business, whether it's millions of Australians investing or a couple of venture capitalists, they will see that as a good business, and you will keep growing your valuation. People aren't dumb. Good businesses grow and get good valuations. Bad businesses who might have been hyped up and list dive and die.
Excellent. Michael, that's all we have time for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us.
Not a
If everyone
problem.
could please stand up and thank Michael in our Startup Grind way.